Welcome into the Pats Nation. I'm Corso Catone's here. Joe's with us in the booth. You are watching us. Are you ever anywhere but the booth, or are you?
He's
You know, people must be picturing an actual booth.
Yeah,
a dunking booth or something like that.
Oh, that would be amazing if I were in a dunking booth.
Throw the friggin' thing and hit the.
If we had enough budget money in the budget, we could do that. We do bits like that.
He's like Superman. He goes in the phone booth, Chris.
Right.
You know?
He actually has a phone booth in his home.
Yeah, we do. In the kitchen.
I'm not even kidding right now.
All right, here we go.
So anyway, we should maybe say from now on, Joe's with us in the dungeon, and you are watching us on YouTube. Hey, when you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, give us that like, give us that thumbs up. That's the thing we're looking for. We always appreciate that. Leave a comment. We will read it on the show. But if you're listening to us, you're doing it on iHeart Radio, Apple Podcasts, 790 The Score. I want to hear from you in Heated Hotline, 855-313-PATS, P-A-T-S. It's a message line. Leave a message 24/7. Joe will pick one, or you can email us on our mailbag, corso.catone@gmail.com. And we got a busy one, believe it or not, even though it's the off season. We're going to go into weekly rewind, talk OTAs from this past week. And we're going to talk QB. We'll bring a QB breakdown. Get a shot of that today. Talk about Drake Maye and how he looked during OTAs. And we're going to go into the coach's room and coach's corner. Talk about McDaniels, Vrabel, and a little bit more. And going to talk Pats preview. Going to break down the running back and the tight end room. See what they're about. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Yeah.
How are you feeling this morning, this fine morning? Mark, you said yesterday on Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England Field, Saturdays at noon. You said that you can't wait for the season because you want to start having Bloody Marys and all that. So you're really, really not expecting much for this team because you're already starting to think about drinking before the game.
No, but listen, it's Sunday tailgate. What are you going to do? No, actually, Chris, I think they're gonna, we talked about it last week. What did we pick? What did we say? 8 wins, 9 wins? But it could be a ceiling of maybe 10, floor of maybe 6, 7.
We had it at 9 and 8. Joe had it at 8 and 9.
9 and 8. All right.
All right. Well, you ready to talk OTAs? A's?
Yeah, I'm ready to talk OTAs.
And by the way, OTAs, for those of you out there, are not optional. That's not what the O stands for. It's off-season training activities. And we're going to talk about it in weekly.
Some of them are optional, though, Chris, aren't they?
They're optional. They're all optional.
Some of them are mandatory, but I don't think this week's was mandatory.
Minicamp is mandatory.
This
past week was optional.
Like pads and cleats, if they can wear.
And I think, Chris, only 1 or 2 guys were not there, but they had real excuses. I think one was, something was going on medically with one of the family members, something, but
do you see out there what I have to put up with when I'm trying to set up the segment and these two are premature in talking about it? Joe? Going back through the week, about a weekly rewind. All right, now let's talk about it. You're talking about the attendance. Is what you were?
Yes, the attendance.
About?
Yes.
Yeah, the attendance. You had Stephon Diggs was out. Stevenson was out. Those aren't surprising. I mean, Diggs is working his way back. Stevenson unfortunately lost his father, and so
yes, that's what I was talking about.
Yep. But Sidney So and Josh Farmer weren't there. But some guys that were present, but they weren't really not involved. You had Mac Hollins, Vidarian Lowe, Christian Bonmore. He was on the field and active, but he had to get, he's coming back from that blood clot, so you're not going to see him a ton until training camp. But those were the absentee players. Yeah. So for the people that were there, let's talk about the offense, okay? How, as a whole. Now, we're not there, so we're relying on the stupid-ass puppets to give us information.
And there was some video that was leaked out and released as well, that you could see a little bit of what was going on. Because they did have the open media session where you could see a little bit.
On Tuesday, the 20th. Yeah, they did. So what did you think?
Well, I'm going to say this, Chris. From all reports and from a couple of clips that I was able to see, it sounds like you and I were right again. The undrafted rookie free agent wide receiver, Chris. Efton Chisholm from Eastern Washington, Chris. He caught multiple passes in team drills, demonstrated his ability to make plays. Some reports even compared him to Edelman. Chris.
He showed a lot of good separation, his ability
Chris,
to separate.
he stood out with his speed, ability to make catches. He caught multiple passes, including some from Josh Dobbs and other quarterbacks. Additionally, Chris, that's going to be a guy you said from the outset. If he shows, McDaniels is going to fall in love with him.
In love with him.
That. He's probably here because of McDaniels. Because we paid, I think, over $300,000 to bring him in as an undrafted guy, and that's probably because McDaniels probably said that I want that kid, right?
Yeah.
So,
what the hell is $300,000 to the team? You know, that's a shot.
You said our roster predictions. You said this kid's going to make the wide receiver room.
I think he will. I mean, I do. And would be interesting to know if the stupid puppets would report it as to who he was running with.
Yeah,
was he running with Tuz a lot? Was he getting throws from Drake Maye, or what's the deal there? So yeah, we'll pay attention to that. But Mark, the other guys in the the receiver
your
room,
buddy showed out though too. Gonzalez showed out. Yeah,
he looked very good.
They said he looked like he was in like opening day form. You know.
Well, of the four, and in QB breakdown, we're going to talk about Drake Maye. So don't think
I'm not going to get into. We're going to save that. We're not going to get into Drake Maye.
Everybody out there, sit tight because we'll be doing that in the next segment. But yeah, two of the four picks that Maye had, Christian Gonzalez was the guy doing it, and it wasn't even like they were that bad at throws or anything like that. On the first interception, it was a miscommunication. He jumped the route underneath, but astute, sound. I mean, this guy could be the Pro Bowl corner.
He should be a perennial Pro Bowl corner for years. And
then on the second one, his instincts were how he read Maye. It was in a zone situation. Came from a different part of the field, read it properly, and cut underneath and picked the ball off. And that was targeting Kyle Williams. So the defense won that day on Tuesday, which, listen, it's not uncommon.
You're not surprised by that, right?
No, I mean, it happens at every level. You get into OTAs, you get into, you get into shorts and T-shirt stuff, and the defense wins a lot of that, because there's a lot of timing and things, especially when you're dealing with a new offense. But we did hear from, one of the head puppets of them all, Tom Curran. Joe?
Campbell's shoulders, I'm not even talking about his arms, his shoulders are markedly more narrow, certainly wider than mine, markedly more narrow than one would be accustomed to seeing. He's not as barrel-chested and broad as a normal left tackle. Pretty fair.
No doubt.
There's no doubt. So I could see when you look down from the hill we were standing on, watching him in his stance and work, he's a little more narrow at the top than
Mike. Wake up! You just figured that out, Mike. Wake up!
His wingspan size.
But I could see why it would stand out. I could see when you look at him why there would be scouts who would,
I'm calling Mike.
This is something you have to look at.
Especially, it stands out especially because they're not wearing pads, right? 100%. So they're wearing T-shirts. And so relative to some of the other linemen that are out there, you notice it.
And this is what we're relying on as our eyes and ears.
And this is why you need to listen to the Pats Nation every week, because you can't listen to those two bozos.
This is why we need to be at practice, because what the hell, Joe? Listen, that was Tom Curran and that was Phil Perry reporting from the field at OTAs.
But Chris, you said that about Campbell at the combine. What are they talking about?
He's pear-shaped.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. That's who he is. His shoulders are really narrow. And what do you think was going to happen when you put him next to guys that aren't that way? He's going to look like it. Well, but they are in shorts and T-shirts, Mark, and he's wearing from the shirt he was. It's almost like they're on the red carpet, Joe. What do they say when they're on the red carpet? Who are you wearing today? Who are you wearing tonight?
Juicy Couture.
What the hell are you talking about? The shoulders are narrow, and I could see. He says, I could see why people, were saying that going in. Really, they're jackasses. Period. End of story. That's why I wanted to play that. More so than any reason. But when we talk about the offensive line a little bit, so you something interested you about what you saw, but what I saw as to who was playing most of the time together with the ones, you had, of course, Campbell at left tackle. You had Wes Schweitzer, who was the veteran they brought in, playing at left guard a lot. And I know you're going to talk about Strange in a second. And then they had Bradbury, which we expected. They had Owenu, and then they had Moses at the other. And that seems to me they probably what they're going to settle on coming in. But you noticed something about
Strange. Strange, Chris, got run with that first group as well.
Yeah.
He got run with them. So I think they're going to give him an opportunity to say, can you do it? But you're right. Schlesinger did get play as well. But they did give Strange play with the ones, Chris. So that's going to be a position that's going to be interesting to watch. And the other thing that was interesting, Chris, is everybody kept saying the kid Wilson that they drafted from Georgia.
Yeah.
Oh, well, he's going to end up being the left guard. No, I think they think he can be a 10-year-old pro center. And I think that's what they're going to stick with him. And maybe he learns behind Bradbury for a year. And then this kid Wilson, Chris, will probably be an all-pro center for 10 years.
Yeah.
And
that tells you just what you said. That tells you that they're wanting him to rep center. They want him to rep. And the idea of Cole Strange, what it also tells you is the idea of Cole Strange playing center
is out.
He bulked up. Looks like Cole Strange bulked up, and they drafted him as a guard and hell bent to make this kid a guard. He's going to play. You're going to play guard. You're a first round pick.
Your first round pick, and they didn't sign it. So he's got some incentive too, Chris, to play well this year because they didn't give him his fifth year. Obviously, why would you? So if he thinks he's going to get picked up by anybody, he's going to have to show out this year because if you just ride the bench, no one's going to. You're not going to get. What are you going to get, a veteran minimum contract next year as a free agent? No one's going to sign you.
And I'll tell you this: I also don't have. I mean, these guys now are looking, look at his body type, Campbell. Oh, what are we going to do? I still don't have a major concern about it. No. Just because, again, he's going to get coached right. He played at LSU, man. He played against a lot of good defensive ends and a lot of good pass rushers, and he was pretty good. I mean, so he's going to get coached by two of the best in the game, 1 and 2. I always will take a guy that has that kind of attitude. I'll die out here before I fail. I mean, when you put that in an offensive lineman,
and that is his attitude, Chris. So
yeah, I mean, you saw that with guys like Mankins, that just were animals, maniacs, Hannah. These kind of guys that just came out there and were like, you know what? I don't care who you are, what you're doing, who you're on the side of me. I'm going to knock you in the dirt.
Chris, a couple of other observations, right, that I made was
we're all talking about the defense a little bit too.
We will. Trevion Henderson, Chris, looked really well as well out there.
You hate that pick.
No, I hate the pick, but he showed explosiveness.
But Mark, in your defense and our defense, both of us, we said that we like the player. We think he's going to be a great NFL player. We just don't like picking a running back.
Picking a running back there. He made several catches in 11-on-11s, Chris. He's a player. He is a player. We knew he was a player. He's a player. Two other things, Chris.
His burst, his acceleration. That's what people were noting.
That's what people were noting. Quickly, Chris. Javon Baker.
Yeah.
Went up for a ball over Christian Gonzalez, and I guess it was an NFL wide receiver play over, as we just said, Gonzalez, who's an all pro, went up over Gonzalez and made the catch. It was a hell of a catch.
What was more impressive on that play was the throw. From Maye, and Maye made the throw. But Baker seemed to be the guy, Chris, that you and I thought potentially could have the most upside with correct coaching, right? With coaching. And maybe we're going to see that from him. Interestingly enough, once the real football players showed up,
the veterans. You didn't hear anything from OTAs about Kyle Williams, did you?
Not a lot. And also the other guy you didn't hear was Jalen Polk. He kind of faded away in there too.
He faded away in there. So that's going to be that's a little.
Now he did have a better day today. I'm sorry, Thursday.
Polk did.
No, Williams.
Williams? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I had a better day. He ran by some guys.
With shorts and T-shirts.
Okay, well, you can't have
And listen,
you can't have both ways.
Chris, the last guy I want to bring up to you is the 7th round pick, Marcus Bryant. Now, Corin's talking about the narrow shoulders of Will Campbell. Blah, blah, blah. This kid, Marcus Bryant, has a left tackle body.
Yeah.
The kid that was drafted, Membu, from Missouri.
The right tackle.
This kid was the starting left tackle
on that
at
team.
Missouri. Membu couldn't beat him out. Well, I shouldn't say that. But if Membu was such a stud, why wasn't he protecting the quarterback's blind side?
Well, the better question is if that guy. The better question isn't why didn't he beat him up for that. The better question is clearly they didn't have a problem with the way the left tackle was playing on that side, because you're always going to look at the left tackle before you look at the right tackle. You're going to look at that.
I'm going to tell you this, Chris. If Campbell can solidify himself as a left tackle, you may have some bookend tackles for the future, because this kid will very easily slide into right tackle behind Moses, Chris. I think he'll learn from Moses, and this kid's your starting right tackle, and hopefully Campbell's your starting left tackle, and you've got tackles solidified for the next 10 years, maybe. You know what I mean?
Well, and the guy you didn't hear a lot about, I know we're over, but we'll stay with this for a minute. I know the guy that you didn't hear much about was Wallace.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
Because I'm really hoping that kid turns into a right tackle. So we'll see what happens. And once again, you didn't let me get to the goddamn defense, Mark.
Get to the defense. Go ahead. We got a couple
we're over. Listen, no, Christian Gonzalez, player on the field, both sides of the ball.
Chris, the rookie,
player on the field.
A rookie supposedly showed up a little bit. That the kid we didn't like.
Woodson. Yeah, I mean, he had a couple of bad plays on Tuesday, but I think on Thursday he redeemed himself a bit. We'll see. I'm just still looking for that guy who's going to play that center field spot. And see. I mean, so
the other kid, the second-year safety, Pettis, they said had a good day. I think
Pettis had a good day. He was sitting at that single high a lot. And Marcus Jones also looked pretty good. And coming off the edge, they had him running a lot of blitz package stuff with Marcus Jones. So you could tell that this team is speed is something that they're going to want to implement on this defense, Mark. So we'll talk about that, and then the next couple of segments coming from now in Coach's Corner, we can talk a little bit more about the defense when we get to that. But Weekly Rewind was presented by Corso Catone, the real deal New England feel. Saturdays noon Eastern. We got Catone's comments, Yankees, Red Sox, all of that in your calls. But hey, when we come back, going to go into the quarterback room. QB breakdown is next.
Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more
Corso and Catone. Saturdays at noon.
Back in with more Pats Nation. All right, Mark. Is this our first QB breakdown of the year of this off season, Joe?
This is our first QB breakdown.
Well, let's make it count, Joe.
Okay, now.
Hit it, boys.
Hit it, boys.
Behind on getting all the right quarterbacks in that there wash.
That's okay. That's what the offseason's for. That's
Exactly.
Joe's in OTAs as well, getting this stuff up to speed. All right, Mark. So we'll start with the Tuesday. He was 11 of. He didn't have a good Tuesday practice. I'll say that. He was 11 of 17, 4 interceptions, 2 sacks, no touchdowns. So I will say he threw that pass. Though, talking about the one to Baker, that's a long pass, past 25 yards.
Yep.
And he basically got it to his back shoulder on a rope. And that was against Gonzalez, as you said. So, I guess the question is this. Last year, okay.
Yep.
One of the big problems with, and nobody really wanted to give him any crap for it. But Pro Football Focus coming into this season has him ranked 20 out of 32.
They have him 20 out of 32?
22nd. Sorry. 22 out of 32. That's bad.
This was last year.
No, right now, coming in.
Okay.
And I have to believe that it's due to the fact that he turned the ball. I mean, he's got a lot of every excuse you could think of in the book, I guess, with the team to being what they were. But in clutch key spots in the season last year, he turned the ball over.
He did.
So is it a concern? I mean, we're looking at it saying, okay, shorts and T-shirts, I mean, we can't have it both ways. I mean, or are we genuinely concerned that this kid threw 4 interceptions in the second day of OTAs?
So I'm not concerned, Chris, because I think, and you've talked about this, Chris, when they hired McDaniels. I think McDaniels is trying to see how much this kid can absorb and how quickly he can absorb it. And if he has to back off a little bit, he'll back off. But I think he wants to see what he's got with this kid. So I think McDaniels is probably throwing everything but the kitchen sink at him right now to see how quickly he can download, absorb, understand, see what's in front of him, see what he's looking at, make the right read, make the right play. And he struggled a bit. He struggled early in OTAs. However, after that, Chris, he was praised for his ability to learn and improve. It seemed like as the days went on, he started to get a better handle of what it was McDaniels was throwing at him. Now, what does that mean? Who the hell knows? Like you said, they were in shorts and T-shirts, but I think McDaniels purposely probably did that, Chris. He struggled the first day. You're right. 4 picks, right? I mean, come on. But then he did get progressively better as the OTAs went on. And what is the phrase you said that McDaniels used when he was interviewed by Edelman? Was it the
fill in the buckets?
Yeah,
fill in the buckets. Filling the buckets. Yeah, he's not going to put too much in the bucket. I'm going to give you my thoughts on this in a second, but I want to get to two comments. Okay. The first is from Karen Currigan of masslive.com. Now, this is why the media pisses me off. Okay. Yep. This is why. She writes, scary isn't bad. Scary as in bad, not good. This is about Drake May's performance. The Patriots franchise quarterback threw back-to-back interceptions during 11-on-11 reps, not once, but twice. What should we glean from that? Well, here's the snap judgment view. Maye is on his way to taking a step backward in 2025, thanks to having to learn a new offense, which is second quarter in as many years. That's really a recipe for success. Yet I see no examples listed as the recipe for unsuccess. But anyway, while that take isn't true, what does she say? While that take isn't out of the realm, it's just not cut and dry. Is this worrisome? Sure. So anyway, the point is, she's saying, I butchered the end of that, but the point is, she's saying, should we be worried? Sure. This is what pisses me off about the media. That right there.
But Chris, can I ask you a question?
Clearly, you have no idea what you're understanding and looking at. You didn't give us any examples one way or I'm just pissed at the media.
No, but I was just going to say, Chris, okay, fine. He throws 4 picks. You mentioned one of them. That one of the Gonzalez picks was on Kyle Williams. So did Williams come out of the break right? Was he supposed to be somewhere and it was a time play and made
we don't know.
Goal and Williams isn't there? Like, we don't know, Chris. We don't know. And does she know? She doesn't know because she's not even referencing it. She's just saying, oh, we had 4 picks.
He had 4 picks.
You know the receiver room is a bunch of stiffs.
Look, I'll tell you from experience of running these.
Maybe it was all on him. I don't know, but
I'll tell you from experience of running these kinds of practices. Okay, with guys that are now in the NFL at one point of who we looking at. So this is big. This is what I'm looking at. Coaching is kind of big time high school football of guys that are going D1. Okay. This is what you see when you have the shorts and T-shirts sevens, 11s, all of that. Look, it's a feel out process. Okay. There's communication things that are happening on the field. There's certain reads, especially in 11 on 11, when you're trying now to insert the offensive and defensive lines in this, and the defense isn't letting up, and they're running blitz packages. They're further along in their study of the defense than the offense is along, because it's just, that's just the way it's built. It's more complicated that way, the offense, to get all that. So I don't care about interceptions in OTAs with shorts and T-shirts. There's so many reasons for them, as Mark said. No issue with that. And I think you made a good point. Chris Casper of the Globe had this to say about Maye's performance. Joe?
Yeah, I think, offensively, I saw a quarterback who was feeling his way through a system that's new to him. And that's what it felt like. It felt like he was kind of processing instead of playing, feeling his way through this thing. And, I talked to Hunter Henry, and he said that, look, it's early, obviously, but with this Josh McDaniels system, he said, we've thrown a lot against the wall and we're trying to make it stick. I also asked him if they had streamlined or simplified the system, because Vrabel had hinted at that during the owners' meetings. And he said, well, not really. Just being honest with you, it seems the same to me. So take that, however you will. This is a complicated, intricate offense that you're asking Drake Maye to learn, and it's going to take a little bit of time for him to learn it. And I can't disconnect him trying to learn this offense from what I saw today with the 4 interceptions. Now, one of them was tipped, and one looked like maybe it was a miscommunication, but one that Del Pettis picked off was just a terrible read, terrible throw.
Yeah, and so again, Chris Casper, who I have a lot of respect for him too, because this is a guy that he's an intelligent guy. Before he goes and has a take, he brings examples, he brings receipts.
And he brought the examples. Yeah, he's learning a new offense.
And I agree with him. In this situation. So that doesn't mean what's her name again? Karen. That doesn't mean, Karen, that all of a sudden now he's going to have a down 2025 season because in OTAs he's trying to get his footing. This is exactly what Casper and Mark just said. And this is why McDaniels is head and shoulders above what we had here for the last several years, is because you're dropping it all on him right now just to see what can this kid, how much can he handle? Not only how much can he handle, how much can I get this kid to just play and not think so much on the field? Because I have to, if I'm a coach and I insert things at this stage, I'm giving I do too. I give them an L, everything to the defensive backs, because now I'm sitting back and I'm watching them and I'm saying, okay, now I know what I can give him in August. Like I know now how the order of which I have to go and how to give him things, because I just watched what he's comfortable with. I've watched what he's comfortable with and he's not thinking about when he's doing it. And then I watch what he's not comfortable with and I see him overthinking too much, like Casper said. That's what he's evaluating right now. The command of the huddle, the overall flow of the offense, and what's stopping him from doing that. And then he'll fill his bucket appropriately when the time comes. Yeah?
No, I agree. Yeah, I totally agree with that, Chris. 100%. 100% I agree with that.
Do you think that he's capable mentally? Now, when Mac Jones came in, okay, with McDaniels, right away we said he's a pro-ready quarterback because intelligently, that part of mentally, he can handle this type of offense. He can handle the terminology. He can do all of that. But the physical gifts weren't there. Well, now we got kind of the opposite, not the opposite, but Drake Maye has the physical talent. Does anybody disagree with that? No.
No, he's got the physical gifts and the tools to do this.
Intelligence-wise, as far as absorption of this, what do you think? So,
Chris, this is where you're going to see, I think, an example of. So last year, I think, you had what you had with what the hell's his name? I've already forgotten the OC's name from Van Pelt.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned coming out of college, Chris, that the offense Maye was running was very simplistic.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And that was one of your critiques when he got drafted. You're like, Mark, I'm a little nervous. I know he's physically gifted, but Mark, he ran nothing in college, like nothing.
Then he had to change the coach too.
Right. He was in shotgun. It was real basic, simple stuff, 1-2 look reads. And, so yeah, you expect him to struggle a bit, Chris, with McDaniels throwing this complicated offense at him. So he wants him to not think too much and overthink. But like you said, Chris, you got to see what the kid can do, handle, and get him there in August. What's he comfortable with? If the kid doesn't struggle, how are you going to find out what he's comfortable with if he doesn't struggle?
Exactly. You can't. So that doesn't equate to.
And in the education world, what we call it is productively struggling.
Sure.
So if you're struggling productively and you're learning from that struggle, then you can hence be successful.
I'm still waiting for mine. I've been productively struggling for about.
Well, you're a lost cause. You're a lost cause.
Years.
Listen, you're a lost cause. I'm a lost cause.
Well, because I'm waiting to see what sticks with me. Same as Drake Maye. And I'm going to wait till I'm about 60 for that to happen. So I don't put much weight into the 22 out of 32 pro football focus because there's a lot of negatives going against him. I will say he's going, and we'll end with this. He's got to learn how to control the turnovers, to protect the ball, and to trust the offense to allow that to happen. And I think McDaniels will get him there.
I think with that being said, I know we were against it. We're going to go to break. With that being said, I think Trevion Henderson, and I think this kid Gibson this year, and I think even the kid you drafted from Cal Davis, not only the running game, Chris, you're going to see a lot of check down, like James White check downs.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be a safety net for Drake. Listen, if it's not there, check down. Like you're going to see a lot of running backs 8, 9, 10, 15-yard plays out of the backfield, Chris. I think you're going to see more of that this year, obviously, than last year. But that may be his safety net.
Well, we'll see. We'll keep paying attention to it throughout the summer. But QB Breakdown was presented by Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. CorsoLawGroup.com. Allow us to be your voice. When we come back, we're going to talk more coaching. I'm going to go into the coach's room in Coach's Corner. Stick around.
No one ever thinks they will be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys.
Back in with more Pats Nation. All right, so we talked about the players. We talked about Drake Maye. Now, how's it going with the coaches out there? Let's talk about it. Coach's Corner. Coach's Corner. All right, Mark. So, and I want to focus a lot on the offense. I don't think Williams is back yet. He's had the coach, the DC.
Yeah.
Had some family issues or things going on.
They had some health issues, family issues, but they say he will be back soon.
Yeah, he's on Zoom with them and so on. But since we were talking about the offense, let's go with McDaniels first. We've already got into it some. That he's throwing a lot at Maye. He's putting a lot out there to see what he can handle. That also holds true then for the rest of the spots because there's a lot of guys on this team. They're relying on a lot of youth. We said over the years, for years we said they got to get younger, they got to get more talent, they got to get more explosive, and they're still working on the wide receiver room. But they got younger for sure, and they got some talented players from talented college programs. He's throwing at all these guys at this point. How do you think? You think it's good that that's happening, and how you think ultimately he's going to handle this type of
Chris,
team? Because he, not to interrupt you, but because understand, for the years we've seen Josh McDaniels, it was very rare that you see him with as young of a young team like this, a young quarterback like this, coupled with young receivers, coupled with young offensive linemen across the board. There's a lot of inexperience on this team, whereas you came with Brady, Edelman, you walked into situations that weren't this way.
Yeah. You're going to see, Chris, a lot more teaching, I think, and you already saw it in OTAs, Chris, on the offensive side of the ball. You've seen, when Kyle Williams in the rookie minicamp ran a drill, you saw Vrabel grab him, but then you saw McDaniels grab him and pull him aside and was showing him something that he didn't do right? So I think you're going to see a lot more teaching than you've ever seen before because they're so young, Chris. And I think that's the advantage of this coaching staff. They're veterans. They're professional coaches, Chris. And I think, like I said, at one point, they even showed McDaniels. He pulled one of the receivers aside and was basically showing him where you line up. It was that basic, Chris. It was like he was showing him, and I don't remember what the number was of the receiver. I don't know. But it was basically like he was showing him where to line up in a certain formation. So I think that's what they're using these OTAs for, because once you get to July and training camp starts, those guys that don't know where to line up are going to be gone. They're not going to make the roster, or you know what I mean? But you're going to see a lot of coaching happening early, Chris, with this group because they have to. And even the offensive line, Chris, you got a lot of young guys. You got Marone, you got Skarnecchia. Like, there's going to be a ton of coaching going on with these guys, Chris. There has to be. But you got the group to do it.
Yeah, and that's why I think, obviously, Mark and I will still hold true to we would have liked to see Ben Johnson as the head coach of this team. Right
Absolutely.
now.
Positively.
Case in point, in the draft, Luther Burden would be on this team instead of Trevion Henderson, right?
Yes.
Most likely.
Most likely.
Anyway, but that aside of that, no, I agree with you. I mean, they have the horses in the coaching room now, to do this. And, we're talking about what's going to be Todd Dowling's role. When we talk about the wide receivers. Just really quick. It's going to will tell you who's making this team. Now, pay attention to this. Who McDaniels spends loads of time with. Because they don't, at this stage of their careers, these coaches, they don't care. They're not interested in hurting people's feelings or any of that crap. There's a mandate. There was a mandate. I'm not even going to say from up top. I'm going to say from Vrabel down. Okay, that, look, we need to get better, and we need to get better now.
Yeah.
Okay? We got to get rid of the clowns that are on this team, whether it's a coaching room, any players, whatever, support staff, enough. We need to be winners. So let's focus on the people that are willing to do that. Now, you see McDaniels, and I have the feeling that you're going to see McDaniels spending a lot of time with your guy, Chisholm. Is that
Chisholm, yep.
Chisholm and Williams. You're going to see him spending a lot of time, and probably Baker, if I had to guess. Okay. He's going to be spending a lot of time with those three guys. You watch. The guy he's not going to pay much attention to is going to be Polk.
You're all over this guy, Polk.
I'm telling you, I don't think he's got a place on this team.
Okay.
I don't think he has a place.
That's going to be something interesting to watch, Chris, as we move forward. Is he the odd guy out?
Yeah.
Because everyone kept saying it was going to be Butte. I think there's a role for Butte on this team, Chris.
I think Butte's one of the more talented guys in that room. Physically, I just think he's one of the more. He played at a program.
You didn't hear anything about him during the minicamp.
Not much. No.
Not much.
Not much.
I don't know how much run he got. I don't know.
No. But the thing is, he had a deep ball thrown to him and Jalen Hawkins broke it up. But the whole point is this. And one of the reasons I think Polk will be history is because he's not going to be able to handle that. No. He's not psychologically. He's not going to be. You already saw what this guy's about. And I don't think he's going to be able to handle not getting the attention from McDaniels and maybe others and Dowling and so on. I will say this, extending from McDaniels a bit, talking about Todd Downing, the wide receivers coach. Now, he's handled in his coaching career, he's handled a lot of different things. He's been pretty much coached everything. He's been an offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, tight end coach. This is the first time he's coaching wide receivers now, but he's coached tight ends. What we saw was him calling a lot of plays. He was play calling quite a bit. Now, I think he was doing that when he was running with the twos where Dobbs was his quarterback. And so maybe McDaniels was with the ones. But I think that's good. I mean, that's the stuff you didn't see with the other coaches last year.
They were
the delegation of these things. Let's get
couldn't
these.
do it.
No, because McDaniels wants Downing on the same page as far as play calling goes. You want somebody in the air a little bit saying, Coach, how about if we scrap that and go to this go to this personnel package, something like that during the game.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing that with Van Pelt. I mean, or forget Matt Patricia.
Hey,
So
forget it.
So I think, right. I think that the long way around of saying that the experience of these guys is going to bring the best out of them. But I'm telling you, this kid Chisholm is going to be his pet.
Well, yeah, because by all signs, Chris, he's Welker, he's Edelman. That's who this kid is. And if you go and watch the film in college, Chris, this kid just had a knack of getting open. He's in short space, Chris. This kid has speed in short space and knows how to find an open space and sit and catch the ball. And then once he catches it, Chris, he reminds you of Edelman in the sense that he's like a bowling ball. He just bounces off you.
He's a tough bastard, man.
He's a tough bastard. He reminds you. That's why they say he reminds people of Edelman.
And so I think his two favorite players, I think you're going to see emerge, are going to be him and Henderson, because Henderson's going to now remind him of the guys he had.
Well, I guess, Chris, they
already
said Chris McDaniels gave him like an overload of film to watch on James White and said, go watch this film. Like already gave it to him. Like 5 years of James White film and said, go watch this. So, So
I think those are the two guys. Now, talking about Vrabel a little bit, let's shift over to the head coach, the head guy, the head man. The tone of the practice. Now, okay, let's say this, because we did give some props to Maye last year. Now, let's not forget, let's not be revisionists where we didn't say these things, but we talked a little bit. We did give some props as to the speed, not the speed, but just the hype of the practice. People are in it. They were engaged. They wanted to, that kind of faded as it went along.
Well, Chris, when they the red flag for everybody should have been when they had the joint practice with
that's where it went.
Was it the Eagles?
Sideways. It was either it was a Tennessee, right, or Giants. I don't remember.
No, I think it was the Eagles, Chris, where
it was the Eagles.
The field that the Eagles were running to practice, it was like 3 and 4 plays compared to every one.
Yeah, the reps were just lopsided.
It was lopsided. Like, in other words, that should have told you right there that we're in a lot of trouble.
And it did. It told you and I that, because once we saw that, I mean, we were okay in the OTAs. We felt like guys were engaged and all that crap. And the flow of the practice was okay. But then once training camp hit, that's when you saw it go sideways. So with this situation, so I want to be careful, I guess, my point, not to give Vrabel too many props yet.
Yeah,
but I will say that the tone of the practice seemed to me, just from the reporting, that more than you see in typical OTAs. You saw more serious, more fast-paced, and competitive.
It was competitive.
And I think that's going to be the thing. That's going to be the thing that's different. Because don't forget, this guy came up in his playing days. Now, he's coached enough, so he understands. But in his playing days when he was here, those friggin' practices were more competitive sometimes than the games.
Well, I was just going to say to you, Chris, if you remember the early years when he was with us, with Belichick, Jesus, all those guys all they did was compete, Chris, and everything.
Yeah, Brady didn't want to come out. He didn't want to come out for any reason. None of the other. There were fights, pushing matches, yelling and screaming with Harrison and and Vrabel. Vrabel tortured Brady during those practices, those early days of Brady, before he was Brady.
Yep.
And that's what he knows. So I mean, I'm loving it. I get more competitive, the better.
Chris, and in OTAs last year, there was some crispness to it, but there was a lot of standing around, Chris.
Yes,
and that was one of the things that you noticed last year. You said, Mark, I don't understand. These guys are staying like that was being reported. And you're like, Mark, that's bad. That shouldn't be happening at an OTA. When you're doing drills like that, that shouldn't be happening.
And the puppets apologized for it back then, and they were like, "Well, they're just trying to get their feet." No.
Yeah.
Practices are set at a pace.
And we didn't have any pace, Chris.
The pace of the practice, I'll say it 1,000 times, and I preach this too. Your pace of practice will dictate everything. You've got to operate at a good pace at practice, but not just a good pace, a productive pace.
Well, Chris, you said you saw at your son's graduation, one of your players came back, the kid that he's a freshman at Notre Dame.
Thomas,
and he said to you, Coach, you said, "What's the biggest difference?" And he said, "Coach, the speed of the practice, right?"
Yeah, he said the speed is
and you're running a high level high school program where these kids are playing D1 football.
Yeah, he said to me, the pace of the practice is good. He said, and then the father was standing next to him too, who was allowed to watch some of these practices, I guess. And the father said, but I'll be honest with you. He said, the pace in which you ran practice for your defensive backs, he said it's very similar to their position group. He said they what they're putting at them, giving them, and then the speed of which they have the reps going, but the amount of learning and teaching, he said he got a great base at this place. He said he really did to get up the I'm not giving myself the point is, Mark's point is well taken. The pace of the practice makes a friggin' difference.
Of course it does.
How you operate that way.
Right?
By the way, pay attention to that kid too, Cree Thomas of Notre Dame. He played in the spring ball and he caused 2 fumbles. Running with the 2s. So, we'll see. Anyway,
freshman.
So we'll see. There's a lot of other things. True freshman. A lot of other things we want to look at throughout this process. And even when the practices end, we'll still have some things to talk about with this coaching staff. But Coach's Corner was presented by Corso Catone, the Real Deal New England Field, Saturdays, noon Eastern. Mark, you're going to have something good next week for Catone's comments? Come up with,
listen, I always have something good.
You had a good story about something next week.
I'm due for maybe a traffic or
flight
driving
or something
episode.
In the air. Some kind of flight situation. So make sure you're sticking around with that next week. When we come back, going to go Pat's preview, talk tight ends, talk running backs. 20 seconds, right back. The Real Deal New England Field. What does that mean? We're like you. We're going to bitch about everything.
My opinion, our draft, the good, the bad, it was ugly.
These people, Mark, drive me freaking insane. Bananas.
It's so frustrating and aggravating. I can't take it.
The Real Deal New England Field. It's going to be real. Back in with more Pats Nation. All right, guys, we want to talk as we make our way through the position groups throughout this summer. We're going to be doing our next stop is tight ends and running backs. Going to do it in Pat's preview. Going to do it now.
Pat's preview.
Okay, I got to get the Rothsteins out for this because.
Oh my God!
We explain to people. I don't know if we haven't make that explanation for in a while of what.
No, we haven't. We probably need to explain that, Chris. You're right because we haven't done that in a while.
Well, go ahead. Tell people quickly. Quick.
I thought you were going to do it. So anyone who's ever, the movie Casino with Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci was the Rothstein. Sam Rothstein was played by Robert De Niro, and he was a casino owner, professional gambler. And there were scenes where he's studying the racing forum to pick the races and the cheat sheets for betting. And he's got these big, huge black glasses on. They're like magnifiers, right? Huge. They're like the size of his face. And they're very similar to what Chris has on his head right now.
The amount of abuse.
So we call them the Rothsteins.
By the way, the Battlehawks made the playoffs.
Oh, Joe.
UFL.
He's still on the USFL.
All right, Mark, what do you want to talk first? Running back, tight end? I want to talk running backs. What do you say?
Let's go running
All right, so here's the room. Here's how the room's shaping out. You got, where am I? There's a lot of guys in this room, but the major players. You got Antonio Gibson, you got Ramondre Stevenson, you got Trevion Henderson, you got Terrell Jennings, you got Land Larison, you got Brock Lampy, and you got Trevion Williams. Oh, I said that already, right? No, Trevion Williams. Yeah, I said that. 2 Trevions on this team.
And Trevion Williams, Chris, is the guy they just picked up, I think. He's probably going to be more of a special teams guy, I think.
Yeah, he's a 7-year pro out of Texas A&M,
Yeah.
right? So, he may.
How many running backs, Chris, do you keep on the roster typically when they go to break training camp?
I think you probably at least 3.
Probably 4, though, right?
Yeah, 3 to 4, just depending on how special team shakes out.
Okay.
So how much are you, what kind of a back is it? Is it a back that's going to be in the return game? Is it somebody who's going to return kickoffs, which I think they're going to want maybe Trevion Henderson to do? So you can kind of say, well, all right, if I'm going to use this guy in special teams a lot, then I'll carry 4.
Okay.
To a game.
Okay.
And then the other guys you put on the list. So let's talk about this. The 4 guys I really want to discuss are Ramondre Stevenson, Trevion Henderson, Antonio Gibson, and Lan Larison. Okay.
Lan Larison is the undrafted kid from Cal Davis, right?
Yeah. 5'11", 209 out of UC Davis. Yeah.
UC Davis.
How do you see this room shaking out, and what will be the role?
Let me ask you this, Chris. Is Ramondre Stevenson a lock to make this roster?
It's really funny that you say that. How do I say this delicately? If you didn't have a cheap owner, okay, then I would say I think there's a chance he gets cut and Larison makes the team.
Okay.
But because you paid this guy, wasn't last year was his first year of his extension? Because you paid him. And now he's due whatever he's due. I don't know the contract.
The only thing, Chris, that you could possibly do with him is you hope he flashes maybe in training camp, like your first preseason game, or maybe in your joint practice, and you trade him. Yeah, you trade him, right?
They overpaid for him, though. That's the only problem.
That's the thing. They did overpay for him, and they didn't need to.
All right, so let's see. So, okay, let's start with him then. What role is he playing on this team?
He's a second down back, Chris. I think, I don't think you got Gibson now. You've got Henderson, potentially this kid Larison. I don't think Ramondre Stevenson will ever see the field as a third down back, Chris, again.
No, for sure.
So you're paying him to be a 2-down back.
Yeah, I mean, he's the biggest back you have. I mean, no, that's not true. Antonio Gibson's he comes in at 228. So he's roughly, he and Stevenson are roughly the same size, but they're built a different way. Gibson's got a lot more speed. I mean, he's your tackle to tackle guy, right? I mean, he's the guy that's going to get short yards, things, and I go to bed with happier thoughts than that, Mark. I mean, he put the ball on the ground a lot, okay? And in all honesty, when it came time for him to get how they were not good on short yardage. They weren't good on 3rd and 4th down yards, and they haven't been for the last several years.
No.
I mean, he just can't seem to find a little seam, turn those legs, drop that shoulder, and get that yard.
The real question is what week is he going to cause the first fumble, and then next week you're going to see Gibson start?
Well, Vrabel's not going to put up with the fumbling. That's for damn sure.
So he'll last a couple weeks. He'll be out.
Because remember, Joe, keep this in mind. These are not his guys.
I know.
There's only
That's
several.
That's why, Chris, I wouldn't be surprised. That's why I'm saying if he could get trade bait for him, but like you said, because of the salary, you probably can't. I would think Vrabel, I think if it was up to him, would probably he'd be a cut candidate. But like you said, Chris, Kraft's not going to do that and pay the salary.
No. So to me, he's going to be your starting back. Okay. I think Henderson works his way up. See, Henderson's a package guy. He's not, this is a Gibbs, this is this kind of guy that he's going to come in on special situations when they need that swing pass, when they need those bubble routes, when they need blitz pickup. So this is going to be a 3rd down guy, which means he and Gibbs are going to fight for time.
Yep.
That's how that's going to go.
But
I have a strong suspicion that the number 1, number 2, and we'll get the tight ends. Your number 1 and your number 2 are going to end up Henderson and Gibson. And I think at some point, Stevenson's going to be relegated. And I think Lan Larison will make the practice squad this year. And then next year, I think he's going to become your number 1 back.
Really?
Yeah, and I think he and Henderson will be that Montgomery, Gibbs punch.
Okay. Interesting. If Larison can survive to the practice squad, if he shows in training camp, Chris.
Yeah.
If the kid can show on special teams, he'll make your roster because of special teams.
Yeah. So
right?
We'll see what happens.
Because he was called out in mini camp, rookie camp, mini camp, Chris. But then when the vets came, you didn't hear as much about him in the OTAs with the veterans. It was more with the rookies. You heard about. You heard Harrison's name.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, if they can hide him on the practice squad, then fine. I don't want to lose that guy because I think that I honestly think we got something there.
No, I think we do too. I really do.
They work to keep him on this team. So we'll see what happens in the running back spot.
So you think it'll be Stevenson, Henderson, Gibson, and probably this kid Larison?
I do. We'll see what happens with the other guys. Maybe a couple of those other guys are practice squad guys like Trevion Williams, and so on. And then that Brock Lampy. So we'll see. Yep. Tight ends, Mark. Now, look, we know. This is what I want to hear.
Hunter Henry, we know is there.
Henry and Hooper.
Locks.
Henry and Hooper are going to locks. They're going to play. Those are going to be the starting tight ends. They'll be on the field. The more interesting discussion, and this is where you come in, when we start talking about CJ Dupree and Jaheim Bell, what do you think?
So Dupree, Chris, I think is a true blocking tight end that McDaniels has always had in his offense, Chris. They've always had a blocking.
There is Jack Westover in that room too, by the way. But go ahead.
Okay. They've always had, Chris, a blocking tight end. This kid Dupree, I told you, is a monster. He's a big kid. I'm interested to see what he shows come training camp. But could Bell make this team, Chris, not as a tight end, but kind of like a H-back type of guy?
The problem that you're going to have, and this goes back to the running backs. The problem that you're going to have is what's Larison's deal? Because
I think they gave him a little bit of money.
But no, I don't mean the deal money-wise. I mean, what's going to be his deal? Like, how's he going to perform, Larison? Because that will say, okay, Bell, Larison, because either one of those guys can play that role.
Larison, Chris, I think his ticket to this roster is special teams right now.
Right. Well, Bell is going to have a lot of special teams play too, you know. But McDaniels loves the tight end in this system, and he likes the bigger tight end, Mark. I mean, which would be Dupree. It would be Dupree. I mean, you're talking about Dupree 6'5", 256. Bell is only 6'2", 241, Mark.
And Chris, you made the point of saying, well, Stevenson isn't he's not Vrabel's guy. Well, Bell isn't his guy either. He was a 7th round draft pick.
No.
Not Vrabel's guy. He better show something early in camp, or he'll be relegated and he'll be gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think Dupree is going to make a spot for himself on this team, and I think he's going to be a guy that plays on the line of scrimmage a lot.
Yeah,
and a guy that's going to help in the running game quite a bit, which is going to end up ultimately
I agree with that.
Protecting Drake Maye. You're going to see this team run the ball. Right. I mean, they're going to want to run the ball. They're going to want to use these backs. They're going to want to use these offensive linemen, and you're going to see less to the outsides.
I agree with that, Chris. They're going to give this kid Dupree an opportunity to make this team as a blocking tight end. You're right, Chris, on the line tight end to protect and to use in the running game. And McDaniels has always had those types of tight ends, Chris. Whether that was Belichick's decision or not, they've always had those guys in McDaniels' offense on the roster.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with them. But listen, it's a tight end heavy offense. It always has been.
Yeah.
The key to this offense, like we talked about, is going to be.
Which is why you and I wanted them to draft a tight end in this draft, because it was a good tight end draft, and we didn't do it.
Yes, sir. And the other key is getting that outside guy to take the safety away to open up the middle of the field for these tight ends that they're going to put on the roster. But you're going to see the running game first. So we'll pay attention to it. We'll see what happens. We'll track it all throughout the summer. But the Pats Nation was presented by Corso Catone, the real deal New England Field. Saturdays, 12 noon. Hey, we got more Patriots OTA talk, Yankees, Red Sox, Catone's comments. And come back to this show next Sunday, 8 a.m. Eastern. We're going to have we're going to do our defensive line breakdown on that one, Mark. More on Patriots OTAs, all that and so much more. We are the Pats Nation. Enjoy your Sunday.